everyone, and welcome to the Ophthalmology Business Podcast. We help you develop your ideal practice with help of other doctors and experts. The topics we cover include marketing, management, leadership, recruitment, HR, mindsets, and more. I am Guido Piquet, one of the co-hosts of this podcast. Every listener of this podcast is welcome to join the Ophthalmology Business Academy at www.obacademy.org. The membership is on us, and it's our gift to you. Today, I'm excited to talk to Naren Arulrajah, the founder of Ophthalmology Business Academy and CEO of Ekwa Marketing, about Ophthalmology Business Academy vision and the podcast strategy.
I'm so glad to be here, Guido, and thank you for taking the time. I think we're going to have a fun conversation today.
Yeah, it's great. I really want to learn more about the Ophthalmology Business Academy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. What is the Ophthalmology Business Academy? Who is this for? And by the way, first of all, I want to thank you for being a co-host. You are a leader in ophthalmology who has, decades of experience, helping healthcare practitioners and leading healthcare practices. So, you being part of it is, I think, a huge asset to our community. The reason I wanted to create the Ophthalmology Business Academy is for the last 12 to 15 years, we have been working with ophthalmology practices all across the US. As a marketing company, we get to see one side of their practice, which is, how do they think about who they are, what services do they offer, how do they communicate those services, how do they help people find them for those services. So in those 15 years or so, I noticed that the business side of ophthalmology is getting trickier and trickier, and the gap between the top 2% and everybody else is widening. Few do exceptionally well, but many kind of struggle or have mediocre practices. And that's partly happening because of the landscape out there, the regulations, the government, the insurance companies, competition, private equity, all kinds of things are happening in a very rapid pace. And so what we wanted to do, and which is why you joined us, is to really kind of even the playing field. How do we bring that knowledge, that experience of the business side of ophthalmology to every single one who's interested? The average doctor today graduates with hundreds of thousands of dollars in loan. So they start in the negative. They start with pretty much a gun to their head, a lot of pressure, a lot of things to deliver on. But however, the schools don't really spend a lot of time teaching them, about business, which they end up owning if they end up owning a practice. So I think this is a fun, initiative, and I think it's going to help a lot of people. Already we have quite a number of people who are members of the Academy and also listening to our podcast. So this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm excited to take part and glad that you asked me to come on board. And it sounds like a lot of fun because, we all get caught up in the daily grind of what we do. And I think it's fun to meet and connect with other leaders in ophthalmology. So I'm very excited. And so you mentioned a little bit about what the vision is and who it's for. Do you see more physicians or practice leaders or administrators, or kind of who do you think this is going to be catered to?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be all of the above. So definitely you are a practice leader. You're one of the key people in an executive team in a very successful practice. So people like yourself, absolutely physicians who currently are owners, and even those who are aspiring to be owners one day. Anyone who's interested in the business side of ophthalmology, like what insurance to work with, what services to offer, how much to charge, how to hire people, how to retain people, how to motivate the team, how to communicate, how to provide a great customer experience. Pretty much anyone who likes business or is interested in business and want to up their game, I think would benefit from listening to this. We even have people who are, team members who are, who really care about these topics we just talked about, who listen to our podcast. So I really think my vision, and I think your vision and our vision is within the next 10 years, we should become the place that is the place that any ophthalmologist or anybody in ophthalmology goes to learn about and to be part of a community that's about, helping, sharing, learning, growing with regards to the business side of ophthalmology.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's great. And so, there are professional organizations in ophthalmology. So what do you see as different about this organization?
Absolutely. There's a few different things that are different about this organization. Number one, it was created virtually from day one. And the reason we did that is, imagine, if you are a small business owner, I'm sure you are familiar with accounting or tax programs. Imagine you take QuickBooks, which is a desktop program, and you try to make it work on the web. And then a company like Xero comes along, which is a startup from, I think Australia or New Zealand. I think it's New Zealand. And they take the market by storm. Why? Because they built it for the internet from ground up. Everything is automated. The data is pulled in automatically from your bank accounts. It's automatically, your receipts are uploaded by you and they automatically reconcile. So a lot of things that we used to do manually in front of a computer on a desktop environment, now it's on the cloud. But they didn't take a desktop app and try to figure out how to make it work. Same way, you can't take a traditional academy and make it work on the web. You have to reimagine it. So that's why we reimagined this. So this is all about the younger generation who loves always learning, always growing, learning in bite sizes. So for example, one of the things that's part of the academy is the podcast. So every single week, they're going to listen to experts. We'll talk more about the podcast in a minute. Another thing that's part of the academy is webinars. So we will have webinars, which are like a small event, a group event through Zoom on a particular topic. It might be with you on, how to build great relationships with your patients, how to manage the customer experience, because you have so much experience on that, Guido. So it could be all kinds of topics. We might bring in experts. We might bring in, doctors who have done this for 10, 15, 20 years. So it's always like learning, sharing. Now, all this content also is going to get added to our library. So people can come back and listen to it and, take notes and share it with their friends. So it's a totally different way of thinking about the academy. The other thing we wanted to do is, we already know that doctors and anybody else in ophthalmology, times are tough. We are dealing with really high inflation. So we wanted to gift the membership, and we wanted to make this free for anyone interested. So the membership for the Ophthalmology Business Academy, if you are in the industry, if you are a doctor, ophthalmologist, it's our gift to you. So we are different in quite a few ways, and having kind of some experience working in the healthcare space, even outside of ophthalmology, for example, dentistry, what we are doing here, we know works. So it's a matter of just executing and doing a good job. So hopefully we become the place for thousands and thousands of ophthalmologists all across North America to learn, grow, share, and be part of a community.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome description. Thank you for that. And I also think it's pretty innovative to approach it to where there's not a cost to the members, because I have a lot of friends in the industry and we get together and we talk. So I'm excited to invite some of our friends and just kind of pick their brains. And because I think everyone benefits, we all benefit from sharing our stories and sharing our struggles and sharing our pains. And this is a great platform because, like you said, we're always very busy trying to make the practices run and make them profitable and support what we're doing. And I think this will be a great thing to do, and it'll be very fun. And so let me ask you another question, Naren. So some of the topics, because if we bring on physicians, they're going to be geared towards certain topics. Some of the different practice administrators will be geared towards other topics. You mentioned a few things that you think you might cover. But if you were just going to give a 2-minute elevator pitch to someone about the topics you're going to cover, what would be some of the main things other than the ones that you mentioned?
Absolutely. I want to also piggyback on something you just said. See, learning has changed. In the old days, learning was you go to a conference, you sit at a lecture hall with a few hundred people. Somebody at the podium is speaking, everyone is taking notes. That's what learning used to be. But then I watch my daughter who's 20, and anytime she has to learn, she goes to YouTube. She literally looks for exactly what she needs. And she watches it, and it probably gives her the answer. If it doesn't, she might find a couple of other things. And then she's done. Like, I mean, she's not interested in, getting on a plane or, going to a classroom and sitting for 2 hours. Even when she has to listen to something, she's listening to it, at a high speed as opposed to like the regular speed. So I think the way we learn is changing. The other thing that's I think I want to point out is learning no longer is one directional, the expert to you. Rather, it's multi-directional. You talk to each other, you listen to each other, you communicate. So the podcast, for example, it's a conversation between you as a co-host, Guido, or me as a co-host, and one of our many, many people who have real life experience. The experience could be in marketing, could be in management, could be leadership, could be recruitment. I mean, recruitment is a tough problem for everybody in healthcare. Retention is really, really hard. A lot of people, are leaving healthcare for all kinds of reasons. And so how do you recruit people? And then how do you retain them? What about mindsets? Like sometimes one of the quotes I heard growing up is, if you have the wrong map, doesn't matter how hard you try, you're going to get lost. So the mindsets that we may have had from 10 years ago, that was perfect 10 years ago, is now getting us lost. Like imagine having a map of New York from, 10 years ago, and you're trying to look for certain businesses from that printed map from 10 years ago. Probably half those businesses don't even exist. Instead, there are new businesses. So you're going to get lost. You can't find what you need. But in those cases, you have to change your mindsets. We might bring in doctors with 20 years of experience, 30 years of experience, have them share their lessons, like what they wish they knew 10 years ago, what would they tell someone starting out, someone in their mid-career. Let's say there's another person who has built an amazing profile where every ophthalmologist knows who they are. How did they go about doing it? So these are going to be like practical, real life conversations with real people who have really done it, not some, quote unquote expert who's just preaching to you. Rather, it's a fun conversation, very casual. You are like driving, you are exercising, you can listen to it and, hey, that's a great idea. Let me go back and try that, tomorrow or even today.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one thing you mentioned too about how learning has changed, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think when a Ophthalmology Business Academy member comes to the site, that, if they have the ability to see a list of podcasts or kind of go straight to what they're looking for, the topic could be SEO, or it could be patient engagement, or it could be, like you said, recruitment, whatever that topic is, they can quickly get to it. Because I know for myself, we're super busy running the practice, and you have busy family lives and home lives, and it's just everything else going on. So this is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to become part of this, because I feel like this information would be useful, and it's useful not only for us, but everybody that we work with in the industry. So I'm excited about it. And so as far as like access to the information, can you talk about ways that the members would be able to get to the information they're looking for? Is it just a website? Is it social media? Or how are they going to get to that information?
Absolutely. And we believe in all of the above. So it starts with the website. Every single podcast is going to get published on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, and every podcast platform in the world. We have a dedicated team. That's all they do. Their job is to make sure that anybody who wants it can get it. So the podcast, you don't even need to become a member to access the podcast. It will live all over the internet, including our website, and just search for the Ophthalmology Business Podcast and you will find it. Plus, it's going to be in the member area, and we're going to create clips. So there might be a short clip about a particular nugget. So you might, say something that's like, wow, this is magic, a 2-minute explanation you give about how to lead, because that's one of your topics that you're passionate about. And what you said is like, wow, this is amazing. We can take that, make a wonderful video about it, put it on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So just spread the knowledge. I mean, think of TED Talks, right? I'm sure we're all familiar with TED Talks. TED Talks was just a bunch of people realizing that there's so much knowledge in brains, and how do we bring it out in ways that are powerful, right? I mean, I've watched so many TED Talks and I've learned so much. I didn't go to a lecture. I didn't go to a conference. I just just search for what I'm looking for and I find what I want. And I'm like, wow, this is mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you mentioned traditional meetings where you go and you spend 2 or 3 days in that meeting. Whenever I go to those meetings, my hope usually is that I can come away with 2 to 3 nuggets of information that are going to go back and be able to change my practice. And so the ability to have a platform to slice those nuggets of information into very small ingestible parts so that we can get it quickly and then not have to spend 3 days waiting for those 2 little nuggets, to me, I think is probably the biggest reason why that I'm becoming part of this. So, thank you for including me. And so the other question I want to ask you though, so let's say you just heard this podcast and you work in ophthalmology and, you want more information. What is the next step for that person?
Yeah, absolutely. The very first thing I would recommend is go to the website obacademy.org and sign up. Like we mentioned, the membership is on us, so you will never pay any dues ever. Everything that we do is, complimentary, so you don't have to pay any dues or, worry about all of that stuff, and access all of our content, not just what brought you there, but even our libraries of everything we have done in the past. So that's the very good step. And of course, I would also recommend you subscribe to the podcast on your iTunes. So this way you don't have to go look for it every week. It'll automatically get downloaded. If you are an iTunes fan, of course, you can do the same thing with Google Play. You can just subscribe to us. So that way, every single week you get unbelievable information that hopefully you can take it and use it, the same day.
Awesome. And so before we wrap up this podcast, is there anything else you want to mention about the OB Academy?
No, I mean, my vision and your vision is to make this the best place, like reinventing education for ophthalmologists who are interested in the business side of ophthalmology. And in addition to the business side of ophthalmology, we're also going to focus a lot on the behavioral side, because at the end of the day, you're not just treating eyes, you're treating human beings associated with those eyes, right? So how do you get them to like you? How do you get them to trust you? How do you get them to know that you care about them? There's so much psychology involved as well. So I think that's going to be a huge part of what we cover, because one of the biggest complaints we have from patients is, oh, he doesn't care about me, he's not interested in me. Like for some reason they somehow think the doctors who have so much education, knowledge, and so much care don't care. So how do we change that? How do we, hopefully it's really simple. It could be as simple as spending 1 minute asking, let's say you have a regular patient asking about their son. That's all it takes. And now they think you really care about them because the son is so dear and near to them. And the 30 seconds you ask, hey, I know Johnny's at university. How's he doing? Oh, he's doing really well, and blah, blah, blah. And that's all you need to do. So simple ideas. So I think we are going to talk about the business side, the behavioral side. We're going to have fun. And of course, when you and I are having fun as guests, as hosts, hopefully the listener is having fun with us.
That's awesome. Well, and I'll say this. I think the one thing I hope the listeners get is authenticity from this. And for me, I would definitely hope to make this podcast better as we go along, because I'm just a guy in an office that runs an ophthalmology practice. I'm not a professional podcast host. So bear with me as we get better at doing this. So again, thank you, Naren, for joining us today and for talking to us about the Ophthalmology Business Academy vision and podcast. We appreciate it very much. Also want to take a moment to thank our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we cannot do that without you. If you like the podcast, please share it with your friends on social media. And also, please don't forget to write a review on iTunes or Google Play. Your reviews will help other doctors and practice owners find us. Till we meet again, wishing all of you an amazing week ahead. Thanks, Naren.
Thank you.